Welcome to the LM Report, your trusted and comprehensive source for in-depth analysis of political, economic, and geopolitical developments that shape our world today. I'm your host Lima, and this is episode 20, recorded on July 21, 2025. In this extended edition, we will delve deeply into a critical discussion about the ongoing efforts to expose corruption at the highest levels, restore accountability within our institutions, and navigate the increasingly complex landscape of American governance and international relations. Our focus today is on the strategic maneuvers by President Trump and his administration to address systemic issues that have plagued the nation for years, hold powerful figures accountable for their actions, and steer the United States toward greater transparency, justice, and prosperity. We'll explore key domestic policies, international developments, economic reforms, and cybersecurity challenges that are shaping the current political climate. By expanding our analysis, we'll provide more context, historical background, and forward-looking insights to help you better understand these pivotal events. As we proceed, remember that the LM Report is dedicated to presenting facts in a balanced, accurate manner, encouraging informed discourse without promoting division or misinformation. Let's begin by examining the political landscape and the battle for transparency that is unfolding right before our eyes. The political landscape, a battle for transparency. The current political environment in the United States is characterized by intense and multifaceted efforts to uncover and address actions taken by influential figures, government agencies, and institutions over the past decade and beyond. President Trump and his administration are actively engaged in declassifying a trove of documents that reveal the extent of alleged misconduct by various government officials, intelligence agencies, and even media outlets. These revelations are not isolated incidents but part of a broader, systematic strategy to expose what many observers and analysts describe as a coordinated effort to undermine the democratic will of the American people and the foundational principles of our republic. To fully appreciate the significance of these declassifications, it's essential to consider the historical context. Since the 2016 presidential election, there have been persistent questions about the integrity of intelligence operations and their potential misuse for political purposes. The declassified materials now being released provide concrete evidence that challenges long-held narratives and prompts a re-evaluation of events that have shaped recent American history. Declassification and accountability. Recent declassifications have brought to light compelling evidence suggesting that certain actions taken between 2016 and 2020 were deliberately aimed at challenging the legitimacy of the 2016 presidential election results. These documents point to a series of interconnected events, including alleged surveillance operations on political campaigns, the fabrication of narratives to influence public opinion, and a range of legal actions that critics argue were strategically designed to obstruct and delegitimize President Trump's first term in office. The declassified materials include a variety of sources, such as intelligence assessments from 2016, detailed reports from multiple U.S. intelligence agencies, dated between September and December 2016, which collectively indicate that there was no credible evidence of any foreign cyber operations aimed at altering vote tallies during the election. These assessments, conducted by professionals within the intelligence community, underscore the absence of interference in the electoral process itself. Internal communications and memos, a collection of emails, memoranda, and meeting notes that to reveal high-level coordination between government officials, political campaigns, and external entities. These communications suggest efforts to promote specific narratives that question the integrity of the election process, potentially to sow doubt and division among the electorate. Whistleblower claims and testimonies, personal accounts, and sworn testimonies from individuals within the government who allege manipulation of intelligence data to influence public perception and policy decisions. These claims highlight potential ethical breaches and call for thorough investigations. These findings have ignited widespread calls for accountability across the political spectrum. Notably, former Representative Tulsi Gabbard has taken a proactive role by submitting over 100 pages of these declassified documents directly to the Department of Justice (DOJ) for potential criminal referrals. The DOJ is now meticulously reviewing these materials, a process that could lead to significant legal consequences for those implicated. This review process involves cross-referencing the documents with existing laws on conspiracy, misuse of intelligence, and other relevant statutes, ensuring that any actions taken are grounded in the rule of law. Furthermore, the declassifications extend to historical precedents, such as testimonies from former officials like James Comey, who in 2017 stated under oath before Congress that Russian interference was a high-confidence judgment of the intelligence community. However, newly released documents contradict these assertions, suggesting that such statements may have been based on incomplete or manipulated information. This discrepancy raises questions about the accuracy of past congressional testimonies and the potential for perjury charges. Legal actions and precedents. President Trump has consistently emphasized the foundational American principle that nobody is above the law, a phrase that has been echoed by his political opponents in previous years during various investigations. This principle is now being rigorously applied to scrutinize the actions taken by former officials, intelligence leaders, and media outlets alike. A prominent example of this commitment to accountability is the high-profile lawsuit filed against the Wall Street Journal and its affiliates for publishing content that is alleged to be defamatory and factually inaccurate. The lawsuit, which has been assigned to Judge Darren Giles, seeks not only financial remedies but also to establish a precedent for holding media entities accountable for spreading misinformation that can harm individuals and undermine public trust. While legal challenges of this nature may encounter obstacles in certain jurisdictions, particularly those with judges appointed by previous administrations, the Trump administration is fully prepared to pursue appeals through higher courts to ensure that justice is served. This approach mirrors past cases where perseverance through the appellate process has led to favorable outcomes aligned with constitutional principles. For instance, similar lawsuits in the past have resulted in retractions, apologies, and settlements that reinforce the importance of journalistic integrity. In addition to media-related actions, there are ongoing efforts to address alleged financial improprieties by public figures. Documents have surfaced showing potential falsification of loan applications by individuals like Representative Adam Schiff, prompting calls for investigations that parallel those previously directed at Trump family members. These parallels highlight a commitment to equal application of the law, regardless of political affiliation. Domestic policy, addressing systemic issues. The Trump administration is implementing a series of sweeping reforms designed to address long issues in governance, infrastructure, public safety, and cultural institutions. These efforts are aimed at reversing policies that have been perceived as detrimental to American interests, while restoring efficiency, fairness, and a sense of national pride. By examining these policies in greater detail, we can see how they interconnect to form a cohesive strategy for national renewal. Infrastructure modernization. One of the administration's top priorities is the urgent upgrading of the nation's air traffic control system, which has suffered from decades of neglect and underinvestment. During the tenure of former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, significant portions of the budget totaling $80 billion over 4 years were diverted to diversity, equity, and inclusion day initiatives, while critical infrastructure upgrades were largely sidelined or deep. This misallocation of resources has contributed to recent widespread disruptions, including flight cancellations, delays, and operational inefficiencies that affect millions of travelers daily. The current administration, under the leadership of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, is introducing a state-of-the-art, modernized air traffic control system that leverages advanced technology to enhance efficiency, safety, and capacity. This initiative includes the integration of AI-driven predictive analytics to anticipate and mitigate potential issues, as well as upgraded hardware and software to handle increased air traffic volumes. Historical comparisons show that similar upgrades in other countries, such as the European Union's Single European Sky initiative, have resulted in reduced delays and lower operational costs, providing a model for success. Moreover, the administration is reversing burdensome security measures implemented post 9/11, such as mandatory shoe removal at airports, which were introduced under the guise of safety but have been criticized for infringing on personal freedoms without commensurate benefits. By streamlining these processes, the goal is to make air travel more accessible and less intrusive. Aligning with the Founding Fathers' warnings against trading liberty for security, public safety, and immigration, the administration is adopting a firm and proactive stance on immigration enforcement, particularly in light of recent incidents that highlight the risks posed by unchecked illegal immigration. A stark example is the shooting in New York City on July 19, 2025, where an off-duty U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer was ambushed and shot by 2 assailants, one of whom was an illegal immigrant with a history of felony assault charges and a standing deportation order. Video footage of the incident, captured by Homeland Security, clearly illustrates the dangers faced by law enforcement and civilians alike. To address these concerns, the administration is working diligently to dismantle sanctuary city and state policies that shield illegal immigrants from federal enforcement. Former ICE Director Tom Homan has publicly stated that there is no constitutional or legal basis for such sanctuaries, and federal immigration laws must be enforced uniformly across the nation. Deportation operations are being ramped up in blue cities and states, with a focus on individuals with criminal records, including murderers, terrorists, human traffickers, and pedophiles. For those seeking legal entry, the administration encourages applications through official ports of entry, where thorough vetting can ensure that immigrants contribute positively to society. This policy contrasts sharply with previous approaches that bypassed vetting, allowing potentially dangerous individuals to enter unchecked. By prioritizing legal immigration, the goal is to build a stronger, more secure nation that upholds the rule of law. Cultural and educational reforms. President Trump has also initiated efforts to address cultural and educational issues that impact national identity and values. He has advocated for the reinstatement of traditional sports team names, such as the Washington Redskins and Cleveland Indians, arguing that these names serve as honors to Native American heritage rather than derogatory terms. Surveys and polls among Native American communities consistently show support for these names, viewing them as tributes to historical figures and traditions. This push is part of a broader effort to resist cultural erasure and promote unity through shared history. In the realm of education, the administration is closely scrutinizing elite institutions like Harvard University, which boasts a staggering $52 billion endowment, yet has been accused of fostering anti-American, anti-Semitic, and anti-Christian sentiments through its curricula and policies. President Trump has proposed legislation to redirect federal funding away from such institutions, ensuring that taxpayer dollars support schools and colleges that align with core American values of freedom, equality, and patriotism. This reform extends to eliminating subsidies for private colleges, treating them as businesses that must compete on their merits without government handouts. Historically, universities like Harvard were founded on principles of classical education and moral development, but recent trends have shifted toward ideological indoctrination. By withholding unexplained billions in funding, the administration aims to encourage a return to balanced, merit-based education that prepares students to be productive citizens. International developments promoting peace and stability. Global stage. The Trump administration is prioritizing diplomatic efforts to promote peace, economic stability, and mutual respect among nations. These initiatives reflect a departure from endless wars and foreign entanglements, focusing instead on negotiated solutions that benefit all parties involved. Let's explore these developments in greater depth. Middle East ceasefire and diplomacy. A significant breakthrough has been achieved with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Syrian President Ahmed al-Assad agreeing to a ceasefire, marking a crucial step toward escalation in a region long plagued by conflict. This agreement, facilitated through back-channel communications, aims to reduce hostilities and open pathways for humanitarian aid and reconstruction. The administration is also engaging with elements within the Iranian government to address nuclear ambitions in a controlled manner, encouraging the development of new sites under international oversight while supporting internal reforms driven by the Iranian people themselves. This approach avoids direct regime change, respecting national sovereignty and promoting organic change. Ukraine and Russia negotiations. President Trump has fundamentally shifted U.S. policy regarding the Ukraine conflict by halting direct financial and military aid, instead urging NATO and EU nations to assume greater responsibility for any support provided. This change has prompted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to publicly call for a ceasefire and express readiness to meet with Russian representatives as early as next week. However, the administration's goal extends beyond a temporary truce to achieving lasting peace through comprehensive negotiations. On the Russian side, a 50-day deadline has been set for engagement in talks, with potential tariffs on Russian exports as an incentive for compliance. This economic pressure, combined with the financial strain on NATO and EU budgets from purchasing weapons, is designed to bring both sides to the negotiating table. Historical parallels, such as the end of the Cold War through economic leverage, suggest that this strategy could yield positive results without further escalation. These international efforts are interconnected with domestic policies, as ending foreign conflicts frees up resources for infrastructure and public safety at home. Economic reforms. Dismantling the Federal Reserve System. A cornerstone of the Trump administration's economic agenda is the strategic reduction of reliance on the Federal Reserve System, which has been criticized for failing to fulfill its mandate of maintaining stable inflation and full employment. Treasury Secretary Scott McClain has openly questioned the Federal Reserve's effectiveness, pointing out that inflation has cumulatively reached levels equivalent to 3,000% devaluation over time, far exceeding acceptable thresholds. Recessions and economic downturns under the Fed's watch further underscore these shortcomings. To counter this, the administration is developing a parallel economic system grounded in tariffs on imports, exports of energy resources like oil and natural gas, and the sale of advanced technologies. This system generates external revenue streams that compete directly with the Federal Reserve's debt-based model, aiming to wean the nation off perpetual borrowing. By using these revenues to fund government operations, the need for income taxes and interest payments to the Fed diminishes, potentially leading to a weakened and eventual dismantling of the central bank. Already, the federal workforce in the Washington, D.C. area has been reduced by 22,100 employees, a move that streamlines operations and cuts costs. This downsizing is part of a larger effort to eliminate wasteful spending, including funding for non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and international bodies that have been accused of misusing U.S. taxpayer dollars. For example, revelations about US funding for refugee programs in Europe, often channeled through organizations linked to George Soros, highlight how such funds have been used to influence foreign policies without direct benefits to Americans. By shutting off these funding pipelines, the administration aims to disrupt agendas that prioritize globalist interests over national sovereignty, ensuring that American resources serve American needs first. Cybersecurity and national security of a critical security flaw in Microsoft SharePoint software has triggered widespread breaches since July 18, 2025, affecting at least 85 servers across 29 organizations worldwide. These incidents have compromised sensitive data in U.S. federal agencies, multinational corporations, energy companies, educational institutions, and telecommunications firms. The sophisticated targeting of these attacks suggests involvement by well-resourced actors, possibly state-sponsored entities with strategic objectives beyond mere financial gain. In response, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has initiated a thorough investigation into Microsoft engineers based in China who have access to Department of Defense systems. This probe follows the arrest of Chinese hacker Rouge Weiwei for stealing U.S. data on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party (CCP). The administration is implementing robust countermeasures, including enhanced encryption protocols, regular vulnerability assessments, and restrictions on foreign access to critical infrastructure. These cybersecurity efforts are vital in an era where digital threats can disrupt essential services. Historical cyber attacks such as the SolarWinds breach demonstrate the potential for widespread damage, emphasizing the need for proactive defenses. By addressing these vulnerabilities, the administration is safeguarding national security and economic stability against invisible enemies. Additionally, the DOJ is pursuing cases of fraud related to COVID-19 relief funds, such as the theft of $250 million intended for children's nutrition programs in Minnesota. FBI Director Kash Patel has commended efforts to hold perpetrators accountable, reinforcing the message that exploiting vulnerable populations will not be tolerated. Media and misinformation. The administration is actively confronting media outlets accused of perpetuating misinformation and biased reporting. The lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal exemplifies this commitment, targeting alleged defamatory articles that misrepresented facts. Declassified documents further reveal that up to 65 journalists collaborated with political campaigns during the 2016 election to influence outcomes, eroding public trust in the press. Efforts to combat this include calls for greater transparency in media operations and potential reforms to libel laws. By holding media accountable, the goal is to foster a more informed public discourse, free from manipulated narratives. Conclusion. A call to action as we conclude this extended episode of the LM Report. It's clear that the events unfolding today are pivotal in shaping the future of our nation and the world. President Trump's actions over the past 6 months have laid the groundwork for transformative change, from exposing deep-seated corruption and promoting international peace to implementing economic reforms and bolstering national security. These initiatives require ongoing vigilance, public engagement, and a steadfast commitment to upholding the rule of law and constitutional principles. The road ahead may present challenges, but through informed dialogue and collective effort, we can ensure that truth prevails, justice is served, and America remains a beacon of freedom and opportunity. We invite you to join us in this important journey by subscribing to the LM Report. Your support enables us to continue delivering comprehensive, accurate coverage and in-depth analysis of the issues that matter most. Click the link below to subscribe and stay updated on the latest developments. Together we can foster a more transparent and accountable society. Subscribe to the LM Report. Insert subscription link here. Thank you for tuning in to this expanded edition. Be well, be safe, and stay prepared. This is Lima, signing off.